everyone. Welcome to the Mindful Play Summit. Today we have Pica, and she's an early childhood educator, consultant for 40 years. Ray is dedicated to the development of education of the whole child. So the author of 21 books, wow, most recently, What If We Taught the Way Children Learn? I love that. Ray has shared her expertise with Sesame Street Research Department and the Head Start Bureau, Center of Disease Control, Nike, and many others. She is a popular keynote speaker and workshop presenter, both virtually and live, as well as a blogger and online course creator. Welcome, Ray. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
You're very welcome.
I have to apologize. I'm still in isolation here. It's been 5 months, 6 months without a haircut. So, you know.
You are looking just fine, and you're here, right? So
yes,
super
thank
grateful.
goodness for technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the beautiful thing about what's happening in the world, right? We can connect virtually, even though, you know, we have to make sure we get the light and the mic and all that stuff. But I really appreciate you making some time to come and speak with us today.
Thanks.
So just curious to know your book. You know, what if we taught the way children learn? So why don't we teach the way children learn?
They're both what I call duh questions. I mean, that's the million-dollar question. Why wouldn't we teach the way children learn? I mean, back in the old days, we didn't have any research that told us how children learn. You know, that helped us understand how children learn. Now we do. We've got all this wonderful brain research and other kinds of research, which we in the States just ignore. You know, we just ignore, and these people on high set policy that have nothing to do with how children learn and develop. And it's very, very frustrating. It's there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of myths floating around out there. You know, earlier is better is a big one. You know, so whether we're talking about academics or athletics, parents and policymakers seem to think that, you know, we have to get 3-year-olds to be 7-year-olds and 7-year-olds to be 12-year-olds. And it's really kind of crazy. Yeah.
It's like they strip away their childhood because of what we think they should be learning at that age.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's just, it's not doing them any good at all. In fact, it's doing them a lot of harm because they're stressed and anxious because they can't do what these important adults are asking them to do because they're not developmentally ready to do these things. You know, when I get emails from a parent of a 3-year-old telling me that her son's childcare center keeps sending home notes because he can't sit still and he can't properly grasp a pencil, I just want to scream. I often do. I often do. Or I'll write a rant about it. That's, you know, Ray's rants. Those are my blog posts and the chapters in the book are all Ray's rants. It's not okay. Or when a childcare provider or a preschool teacher with the best intentions says, well, we're teaching the children a word a week, words like hypothesis, you know, which have nothing to do with the 3-year-olds. And when asked why, she says, because we need to get them ready to be 4.
Yeah.
You know, I'm almost speechless. Well, it takes me a little while to formulate, you know, my thoughts about that. We don't have to get them ready to be 4 or 5 or 6 or 26 or whatever. We have to enjoy and appreciate and respect them where they are. Just help them to be the best 3-year-olds they are, or whatever age they happen to be, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like we mentioned there, it's almost like we don't allow them to play, to go through that development, you know, and we keep putting the pressure on them to learn this and that, they just shut right down. And what does that do to their self-confidence? And sometimes I'm sure you'll see children come in and be like, I can't do that. Or, you know, you color better than me, or, you know, certain things where their self-esteem is just completely squashed. And I firmly believe that's because of the expectations that, you know, society and, you know, even ourselves as parents or caregivers or educators put on these children at that age, and to remind ourselves that they need that play. And hey, so do we, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing, you know, the things that we're telling them they have to learn, the things that we want them to learn, that's not authentic learning. It's more often rote memorization. You know, what they learn through play, they truly learn. Eric Jensen has written a bazillion books about brain-based learning, and he calls it the difference between implicit and explicit learning. So if you, 5 years later, if you were asked to ride a bike, would you still be able to do it? Yeah, you know, because there's that expression, it's just like riding a bike, right? So that's implicit learning. 5 years later, if you were asked the capital of Peru, would you still know it? I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't,
me
because
neither.
I don't remember the stuff I memorized, and that's explicit learning. And to me, it's inauthentic learning, especially in the age of Google. You know, look it up. We
Yeah,
don't have to memorize it anymore.
absolutely. Well, and it just goes back to like the referencing of our upbringing and, my upbringing in particular, where you're taught a certain way to think. You're taught a certain way to think, you're taught a certain way to do. And, you wonder why, maybe there was some rebellious happening, right? Where it's like, no, I want to go this way, or I want to do that way. And we're so quick to label or say, oh, this child can't sit still, or this child can't focus, or this child can't listen. And we're going to label that and, go see your doctor and so forth. And we just have to strip back those chains, or those layers of control, to allow these children to fully play. So you touched a little bit about it, but what role should play have in the education of young children, from your perspective?
It should play the major role in the education of young children. It's what nature intended. And who are we to think we can do better than nature? I mean, it's nature's plan, whatever you believe, the universe, God, Mother Nature, whatever you happen to believe, that's the plan. That's the way it was intended. Have you seen the video of the baby goats in pajamas jumping around and, just frolicking? We would never tell a baby goat or a kitten or a puppy not to play, because it's part of nature's plan. It's what they do, and it's what children do. And when they play, they learn so much. I mean, they learn so much. The social emotional development, and the conflict resolution, and the decision making, and the problem solving, and all of that is so much more important than memorizing stuff, or filling out a worksheet, drawing a line from this face to that emotion. It's not authentic learning. But when they play, they learn authentically. They also have the opportunity to express their feelings and to work out what's going on inside of them. And the wonderful Nancy Carlson Page once said to me, if they don't play out their feelings, where do those feelings go? So right now we have a lot of children playing pandemic, and they're pretending to be doctors and nurses and patients and all of that, and they need to have some control over their world, and play gives them that opportunity. So, I mean, I'm not saying it should be a free-for-all in a preschool or a child care center. There can be direction, like some direction, but we need to give children the opportunity to have more self-initiated and self-directed play, because right now all they're doing is learning to follow somebody else's directions, somebody who knows better than they do. I mean, I have a friend who's a middle school teacher, and she says by the time they get to her, they have no ability to make a decision on their own. She'll put papers down, face down on their desks, and they'll sit and stare at her because they don't dare take a step without permission or instructions from an adult. And that's part of what's happening to them because of lack of play.
And what do you think that does to their creative mind and their imagination? Where it's like, oh, he's daydreaming. It's like, well, he's actually having a deeper experience versus just being a robot and being taught in a certain linear way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. Creativity is so important to me. And, we give a lot of lip service to it, but, we don't really do much to foster it, which is sad. I mean, Albert Einstein, who I closely resemble these days, used to daydream in school. You know, Steve Jobs daydreamed. We think of creativity, we all love to take advantage of the products of creative people, you know, the movies and the artwork and the dance and all of that. But again, we don't do a lot to foster creativity. But it may be because we value money so much and we don't think that there's money to be made there. But we need creativity in business and industry. We need creativity in everyday life. Every time you solve a problem, do something a little differently than you did the last time you're using creativity. We need creativity in science, so there'd be no new advances. We need creativity in medicine, hello, so that we can, find new methods of healing. We definitely need that right now. So to me, creativity equals problem solving.
Absolutely.
The ability to see beyond what already exists, and to get from here to there. And if there's one skill in the whole wide world that we know children will need when they become adults, it's problem solving.
Absolutely.
Because as long as there are humans, there'll be problems in need of solving. And we don't know what the world is going to look like when they're 20 something, because it's changing so rapidly.
For sure.
So, giving them this narrow skill set isn't preparing them for that. If they don't know what to do, if a teacher puts a piece of paper down on their desk, how are they going to solve the world's problems? How are they going to meet all of the challenges of adulthood? So yes, we have to let them play, so they come up with creative solutions, so they make and break and revise rules, and they use their imaginations. I spent one whole summer playing Pilgrims, and I couldn't wait to get outside every summer morning so that we could play our game. It was just full of imagination and fun.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about this all, I'm connecting with my own personal story and letting go. It's almost like, so I have 3 of my own children, and my oldest one, you always have one that's like your trial and error, right? You teach
The first pancake.
teach it a certain way, and you're like, well, wait a second, let's bring it back and let's go this way. But it's interesting to see the ebb and flow of my own development, to let go of that parental control. And even though I have my ECE and I do a lot of emergent planning and I've been in the industry for 17 years, reflecting on my own parenting with my own children is different than in the center. So as you're speaking, I'm giving myself a little bit of a parent check too, right? Saying, interesting, because we sometimes treat our children differently than we would treat the children we're caring for. And that's what's coming up for me too, is to have that self-awareness piece. Not to say that I'm a bad parent or, bad caregiver, but it's that awareness piece to say, oh, wait a second. I have been thinking in a certain way around that. And how is that preventing, my daughter to move and to problem solve on those things? Because maybe it's a fear base of mine of letting her, go to the store by herself or whatever it is, but I'm hindering that development where she's ready for that next step. Right? Or maybe social society says, well, they can't, be by themselves or go to the park or be in your backyard, like whatever all these rules are, because fear-based, and reflecting on how am I teaching versus how am I parenting, and coming into more of an alignment, but also that awareness piece, just having a little bit of awareness around it to recognize that. So I just wanted to share that that's what was coming up.
I'm glad you did. I mean, there's pressure, of course, in being a teacher, but there's much more pressure in being a parent. You need to get it right. You really need to get it right. And there's so much fear these days. And what group of people is easier to scare than parents, right? Absolutely. There's just a lot of fear, almost all based on misinformation. It's almost all based on these myths that are coming from here, there, from marketers, from media.
Yeah.
So
someone else's perception, right?
Yes. Yeah, I love the idea of doing a little self-check. I think it's so important, whether you're a parent or whatever you are. We always have to take a moment to reflect and make sure that we're going down the path we want to be going down.
Yeah, and to be kind for us to ourselves too, right? As we learn, it's not a matter of saying, "Oh, I really messed that one up," or "Oh, I hope she's going to be okay," referencing your own children, but understanding that you can shift and shape the way that you parent and that you care for children based on expanding your own awareness of, "Oh, how might my actions be affecting the children I'm caring for?" So it's interesting because, having these conversations also for me, the little light bulb goes on to say, "Oh, wait a second,
I
let's take
love
a look
that.
at that," right? So thank
Yeah,
you
I
for
love
that.
those light bulbs.
Yes. So let's talk about some of the resources that you have. I know that for the guests that are listening today, we're going to post some links below that you're providing access to the free e-library. So what's in that e-library?
Right now, there are 14 ebooks in there, and they include activities, active learning experiences, the authentic learning through play and physical experience for math, emergent literacy, science, social studies. There's one on helping children understand personal space, which I don't really know what your situation is up there in that corner of Canada, but, we're talking about the children going back to school having to socially distance. And I've always been a proponent of helping children understand and respect their own and others' personal space, but now it's even more important. So I've offered an ebook on that. There's one on calming activities, which has always, because that relaxation is a learned skill. And so that's always been necessary. But I think that, if we look at trauma-informed teaching, that we will see that children need even more of those kinds of experiences now. Because even if we try our best to keep them from our anxieties, they do pick up on them. And there's so much to be anxious about these days. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that great resource. And I look forward to digging a little deeper in there as well. Now, if there's one thing that you wanted to leave our listeners with today, for parents or early child care professionals, what would that be?
That's a hard one for me because I have many, 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 many opinions. I think maybe the most important is just for us to, it seems so simple, let children be children, appreciate and respect them as children at the stage of development that they're at, because it's a glorious thing. And we're always saying, oh, they grow up so fast. Why would we want to do anything to hurry it up even more?
Absolutely.
So
that's a very beautiful message. Thank you so much, Ray. And we'll definitely keep in touch. Like I said, we'll share out your information, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule today to meet with us.
Thanks
and
again.
you have yourself a great day.
Thanks, you too, Crystal. Bye.